Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you kindly for stopping by. I'm always grateful. I got rather spoilt yesterday. I went to the Norfolk and had a most enjoyable dinner with a good friend of mine, Moshe Pereira, who runs the Norfolk here in Nairobi, and with Charles Island of East African Breweries. Charles is moving back to the United Kingdom. Moshe, I rather like this photograph I took of him as I came into the hotel and he was at the entrance, and we had a fabulous dinner. There's a link here for Tatu restaurant. Had some delicious scallops and a rather wonderful steak. And I'll also put up a photograph of Charles and Moshe in the restaurant. It's really very, very good and most enjoyable, and I thank both Moshe and Charles who gave me a lift home. He doesn't live too far away from me. And I always get worried because of my hedge tends to get a bit unruly. We haven't been that lucky with gardeners. They tend to disappear. Charles tends to notice when it gets very unruly. Macro thoughts. This has got to be the world's best performing market this week. This is David Inglis. This is the Mongolia Top 20 Index, up 8% over just 2 days. Home thoughts, I like this quote from the Paris Review, William Gass. I love metaphor, the way some people love junk food. John Eglinby, who's a friend and writes for the Financial Times, tweeted this morning, the breakfast view in Dar-Es-Salaam eases the pain of waking up earlier than planned. And then I saw this photograph, the beauty of the Serengeti, and indeed it looked beautiful. It took me back to Jorge Luis Borges. You have wakened not out of sleep, but into a prior dream, and that dream lies within another, and so on to infinity, which is the number of grains of sand. The path that you are to take is endless, and you will die before you have truly awakened. Political reflections. Trump stumbles in pivot to prime time is the headline in the Financial Times. Republicans fear candidate lacks campaign infrastructure to beat Clinton. It is a further indication that the Trump campaign is not ready for prime time, said Jean-Pierre. Thank God they fired their campaign manager. There is still some time, but not much. Trump could spend little in the primaries since he was a new spectacular phenomenon, and the vote was concentrated among a similar slice of the electorate, conservative Republicans mainly, and was split 17 ways. The general electorate will be far more diverse, and perhaps 135 million will vote. He was a big fish in a small electoral pond, but now he's in the ocean, without the equipment to sustain him. In my view, he's spontaneously combusting in front of our eyes. If Leave wins, Cameron will go down as the person who miscalculated, taking us out of Europe almost by mistake. In 2013, besieged by the increasingly assertive anti-European wing of his own Conservative Party, Mr. Cameron made a promise intended to keep a short-term peace among the Tories before the 2015 general election. If re-elected, he would hold an in or out referendum on continued British membership in the bloc. But what seemed then like a relatively low-risk ploy to deal with a short-term political problem has metastasized into an issue that could badly damage Britain's economy, influence the country's direction for generations, and determine Mr. Cameron's political fate. As the nation prepares to vote on Thursday, the betting markets are signaling that Britain will choose to remain in Europe, but polls suggest that the outcome is still too close to call. Take you back to a piece I wrote on the 13th of June when I was quoting David Cameron, who said, "It is time for the British people to have their say. It is time to settle this European question in British politics." I also said in that same article, Margaret Thatcher, a totemic leader of the Conservative Party, fond of swinging a handbag in negotiations with recalcitrant Europeans, never called a referendum in this matter, and for good reason. And then I also said, and increasingly looks likely that this outcome is going to play out, that if Prime Minister Cameron can pull this rabbit out of the hat, it will be a famous political victory, it really will. 24 hours to the historic vote, and the probability of a Brexit is at 1 in 4, that's according to David Inglis. Put up a photograph of Prime Minister Cameron. Then finally, on political reflections, reflect on issues in Bahrain. These actions against Ayatollah Sheikh Issa Qassem are a red line that, if crossed, will set fire to Bahrain and the entire region, and won't leave a choice but for the people to take on armed resistance. This is the stripping of the nationality of Ayatollah Sheikh Issa Qassem as a Bahraini national. I've got strong views on Bahrain. My mother passed away in 2002. She was in Asia. The flight was on its way back to Nairobi. She had a brain aneurysm there to land. They landed in Bahrain. We all flew to the hospital. And the hospital that we actually, where my mum was treated most incredibly, they went way beyond the call of duty, then became a hotbed with the government accusing doctors and nurses in that hospital playing some kind of nefarious role. Ladbrokes PLC said that the odds on a Remain vote had shortened to a 7 to 2 on chance, indicating a 74% probability. At one point last week, bookies were placing about a 40% chance on the UK voting to exit, and differences in polling results for the respective campaigns show the outcome of Thursday's vote isn't yet a foregone conclusion. Nothing is. But it has moved significantly, of course, since the assassination of Joe Cox. Let's move on to the currency markets, because I trade a little bit and suddenly the margin requirements are going up like anything. Euro dollar 112.72, dollar index 93.96, Japanese yen 104.45. I've been bullish that since the beginning of the year. Swiss franc 0.9621, the pound up just on 147. We'll come back to that in a moment. The Australian dollar 0.7485. India rupee 67.585. South Korean won 11.5357. The Rial 341.50. The Egyptian pound 8.8866. And the South African rand firmer still at 14.7297. But this is an elastic band that's now stretched practically at its limit in terms of the rand of the trading range that we've seen. Sterling pretty much flat year to date. Wow, what a ride, says Jonathan Ferro. I'll put up the chart that he posted. And then he also said, back in the beautiful city of London, who bought all the sterling? Because you will remember that there was a massive buy order came through the moment Joe Cox was confirmed dead. I've also put up a photograph of a pound coin. Dollar index putting up a one-year chart of that, 93.96. Key area of support is 93. We've got to make sure that holds. We expect gold to jump 10% in the event of a Brexit. This is Singapore-based Keenan forecasting a rally to $1,400 an ounce. We expect volatility in gold to increase significantly, and this can be played out in terms of, from an investor's perspective, through accessing instruments like variance swaps, which increase in value as volatility increases. We are last trading in the gold market at 1265.70. Put up a 6-month chart. We've twice retreated from just above 1300, I think we can fall sharply away if the prediction markets are correct, down below 1250, maybe as low as 1235. Crude oil, very frothy again. Brent crude is at 51.50. New York NYMEX crude is at $50.34. Let's see how we behave today. Wednesday is always a big day for data in the oil markets. Oi bankruptcy sends shockwaves through Brazil's financial system. This is Holger talking about the bankruptcy of the mobile phone company Oi. Coming to Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, International Criminal Court, Trial Chamber 3 sentences Bemba to 18 years for war crimes and crimes against humanity. It was interesting that Kofi Annan actually was speaking at a Nestle-sponsored conference in Abidjan and spoke in a very forthright manner about the ICC. Put up a photograph of Jean-Pierre Bemba. Look at this view over Atteridgeville, now Shwane unrest, many roads closed, situation very tense. This is South Africa. In the run-up to local municipal elections is becoming quite stressed. South African all-share up 4.46% this year. Dollar rand, when I looked last, 14.7297 at the top of its recent range. Egyptian EGX 30 up 3.5% so far this year, coming off the boil a little bit. Nigeria's Naira pulls back from record low as stocks advance. The currency was in the 280, 285 area. Obviously, it slumped 30% after the central bank abandoned its 16-month-old fix of 197 to 199. They've done the right thing. It would be churlish to complain, and actually they were quite clever in what they did, because there was a lot of demand in the forwards market. They went and cleared the forwards market. So very smart thinking on the part of Emefiele. Thompson, who was quoted by Bloomberg, says it will move to 300 at some stage. There's all that pent-up demand. Let's see, everyone is incredibly nervous of selling dollars. Willis, he said by phone from London. They're worried about selling at the wrong rate. Everyone is waiting on the central bank to see what it will do next. Nigerian all-share up 2.72% this year, highest level since October 2015. Ghana Stock Exchange down 11.28% so far this year. Russians and Kenyans to face evaluation for the Rio Games. Any competitor from Russia or Kenya wishing to take part in the Rio de Janeiro Olympics will need to be individually evaluated against doping and declared eligible by their Sports International Federation, Olympic chief Thomas Bach said on Tuesday. So Kenya still in the crosshairs, notwithstanding some bullish talk out of the Cabinet Secretary here. The monetary policy stance will remain neutral. This is the central bank governor telling reporters in Nairobi yesterday. Inflation is smack in the range that we've been targeting. So he's maybe trying to cool down expectations of a further rate cut, but he's not in a bad place, is he? However, interesting, an IMF working paper on monetary policy implementation and volatility in yields in Kenya says that the highly volatile rate at which banks are lending to each other, this is the interbank rate, is leading to volatility in the treasury bill rate, a key component in pricing of loans in the country. Changes in the policy rate may not have the intended effect on funding costs if accompanied by increased volatility of the overnight market interest rate, all else equal. The point is the issue is not really being addressed properly. The problem is the interbank market has become a tier 1 interbank market. It is that which has distorted the pricing mechanism. Corruption, politics, murder, anatomy of a Kenyan killing. On a wet Thursday night in early May, a well-known businessman and government critic was found dead in his armoured blue Mercedes by a busy road on the outskirts of Nairobi, 5 bullet holes in his chest, neck and arm. Kenya's long history of state violence meant the murder of Jacob Juma, who was in his mid-40s, was quickly viewed as a political assassination. His death dominated the country's newspapers as amateur sleuths picked holes in the police narrative of a business deal gone wrong, and opposition politicians cried foul. The arc of Juma's life was unusual at first, and then unique. Kenya's pervasive tribal patronage helped a poor, smart rural kid make the political connections necessary to get rich on ill-gotten government contracts. After he was cut out of a potentially lucrative mining deal, he became a relentless anti-corruption activist and government critic, leading many to see politics behind his death. Juma was a scoundrel that bitterness turned into an asset for those fighting corruption, says John Githonga. And then somebody else says it was a warning to all of us. You stay in the corner we give you, or we will deal with you ruthlessly. We estimate it needs at least $400 million to enable a sustainable balance sheet. This is Citibank talking about Kenya Airways. Kenya shilling is at 101.204. Nairobi all share up 0.46% this year. NSE 20 down 6.57% so far this year. Obviously, the Brexit vote on June 23rd continues to have the international markets tracked like rabbits in its headlights. The assassination of the British MP Joe Cox was the trigger for a massive short covering rally in the pound, which has soared 7.5 big figures since that event. Prediction markets have surged in favour of Remain. The central bank governor, Dr. Jorobi, said the following at a press conference yesterday: "We think we are in a comfortable position," referring to FX reserves, adding that a British vote to leave the EU would hurt the global economy and Kenya would feel the shockwave. Mr. Colin Moore, Safaricom, announced that John Tombleson, the chief financial officer, was headed back to London. Our HR policies do not allow us to disclose the details of an employee's contract. However, as a key Vodafone resource, John's contract has a set limit and he will transition to his next position in line with the routine rotation schedules put in place for any employees seconded to Safaricom from Vodafone. Safaricom rode back 1.6% off a record closing high to close at 1840. It's up 12.88% this year. Kenya Airways firmed 1.28% to close at 395. News that a number of suitors are sniffing around is going to be helpful for the share price. I expect Qatar Airways to be in the lead and then to look to keep investors happy by paying a small premium to the current share price. TPS Serena up 2.44%, very correlated to tourism. NIC Bank was appointed as an asset and liability consultant for Imperial Bank statements issued by the Central Bank of Kenya. This follows the failure of IBL shareholders to provide adequate assurances to implement a proposal that would enable the prompt reopening of IBL and resumption of normal activities for its customers. NIC will disburse on behalf of KDIC a maximum of 1.5 million shillings each to the remaining IBL depositors. It is expected that depositors will be granted access in a structured manner to about 40% of the remaining amount of verified deposits above 2.5 million, which would bring the cumulative payout ratio for all verified deposits to an estimated 59%. But quite a few people are telling me I'm reading that wrong. But, it's not going to be at 59%, it's lower. NIC Bank closed unchanged at 36.75. It was a pleasure speaking to John Gachora, the MD, who spoke about the public interest role in particular and a desire to unlock the logjam. This looks like a good bad bank scenario, which is really something I think they should have done a little while ago. KCB eased 0.71%, closed at 35, very oversold. Equity most actively traded yesterday, 13.888 million shares changed hands. Standard Chartered up 0.92%, up 12.3% this year. That's not accounting for the bonus, so you've had an even better return. Barclays, that's down 28.2% through 2016. And lastly, EABL unclosed at 300. This is the organisation Charles heads up. It's about to hand over. It's up 9.89% so far this year and expected to push on from here. Once again, thank you for stopping by. I'm grateful.